Welcome aboard Serenity, where I will be taking you on a tour of the termite problem and how we're going about fixing it. So here you can see the glass has been stripped away from the bookshelf stringer there up to the underside of the cabin here. As we get closer, you can see some of the exposed nails from the original construction there, where in this strip the termites only got about halfway through and were digging tunnels. So I popped that part of the wood off and treated it with antifreeze and boric acid, which will both attract them and then infect them and kill them. Up here, you can actually see the red poking through. That's the paint on the outside of the hull, because that is our exterior layer of fiberglass. So I've managed to get the wood off all the way to the hull and scraped it more or less smooth and fair. And you can see that top strip goes all the way across to here. I've got a piece of cedar in there now that I was dry fitting. And it may or may not go back in behind the sink here where there's a water tank. If it does go back in there, I don't know how I would get that water tank out, but I can check on the other side where there's you can see our little dish cabinet over there, and just try to bound the extent there. But I really wasn't finding many termites over here. There was just some dampness in the wood. So we think the termites came in right here around this bulkhead, and some of them turned right and went into the top strip here, while some of them turn left and are in the hanging locker, which I am showing you here. I'll try to get my lighting right. So you can see that they've extended in more than just the top strip right here, but you can see that it does quit at some point on the way down. So my guess is that more of these guys went left than right for whatever reason, or maybe they originated further up here. It's really hard to tell. So, same as on the other side of the bulkhead, I've gotten the wood back until you just got the outer layer of fiberglass there. And I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but you can see I don't know if you'd call it a shear clamp or what, but those screws you can see there are the ones that go through the tow rail and basically attach the deck to the hull. Now, I can back those screws out, and once I've got a new top strip in there, now your tow rail is tied back into your hull again. So, moving on to the bulkheads, you can see this one here. This is a healthy bulkhead. I jabbed it with a poker and it's hard and solid, and that's how it's supposed to look. A piece of marine ply against the bulkhead to add additional support. Now on this side, however, you can see there isn't one of those supports anymore because it was hollow when I poked it with my little poker. So I got all that wood out, and what is left is the teak veneer, so that on the other side, on the V-berth side, you have an uninterrupted piece of wood. Keeps it looking a little bit prettier. So the idea here would be to epoxy coat this. I've already done the boric acid treatment. So epoxy coat that, and then right there are new pieces for that bulkhead support. They're 1/2-inch marine ply that I was able to get from a local lumber yard. So I'll probably put those two pieces together. I'll see how much space I need before putting in the new, or putting back in the chain plate. And then for this repair, you could already see that I'm starting to dry fit cedar pieces. But the repair would essentially consist of neatened epoxy, all in here. Once that starts to gum up and kick, I would add in thickened epoxy. So it's just epoxy with wood flour, peanut butter consistency, spread it across, so that when I push in the new cedar pieces, there are no gaps. I would have already treated the cedar with epoxy as well, and then before that really cures, I would attach that in after the peanut butter stuff. Get that all pressed in. Use screws as necessary to keep pieces together, but we'll see how necessary that is. I'll pre-drill holes. And then once that's all in, and once I've done thickened epoxy to fill this half strip here, fair that all in with sanding, and then I've got the original pieces of fiberglass here that I peeled off. I've got one that's a really long strip, and then one that was my initial investigation that's just right about there. So I would epoxy those back in place and then sand back the seams from my original cuts and fill those in with epoxy as well. Sand them until I could get them looking as nice as I could. So that's kind of the rundown of the repairs. There's a slight possibility, you can see here that I've dug wood back in the hanging locker all the way to where I've cut the glass. So I'm half tempted to come in here in the V-berth and just do an exploratory cut to make sure that the termites haven't gotten this far, and then treat that area if I need to. Here what you're looking at is the other side of that bulkhead. As you can see, the teak is still in good shape, so that's nice. Yeah, while we're at it, here's our V-berth full of all of our stuff. Right next to the bathroom. It's too dark to see. You can see the main cabin here, with the galley over there on the left behind the doors for the hanging locker. And then the quarter berth extends quite a bit back in there. We primarily use it for storage. We had a couple of bikes in there and seats for our folding boat and that kind of stuff. But you can also sleep in it if you're not too terribly tall. Out here in the cockpit, you've got a seat that's long enough to stretch out flat, which is really nice for sleeping or taking cat naps while you're on passage. And then out here, just a brief look. Can't really see in the sun, but here's the extent of our deck. You can see we've got all of our lines run so that you can manage all the sails from the cockpit. And then we've got our Franken shade here cobbled together, but it creates really nice shade in the cockpit, so we like it. Anyway, hope to hear from you, and I'm going to get back to work.